Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to see where Randy Pitchford is coming from.
Yeah, heartbreaking. The person you hate just made a decent point. Although not in the best way, which kind of means that Pitchford really is one of us after all, making a point, but in the wrong way to the worst people.
Gearbox Entertainment Company CEO Randy Pitchford unleashed his golden thumbs on the internet again with info that's equal parts refreshingly honest and also just cringily tone deaf.
Yep. The topic at hand, of course, is $80 games. Borderlands 4 doesn't have a price announced yet. There's been no pre-order, so no price has been set, despite coming out this September. And with Mario Kart World retailing for $80, Xbox warned everybody that their holiday games are going to go up to $80, which, let's be honest, that probably means Call of Duty. So everybody's wondering about any game that doesn't have an announced price now. Is it going to be $80 or not?
X-user at Old Gold Sot hit old Randy with more of an imperative than a question last week. They said, quote, "This game better not be $80. And then Lawrence, what did Randy Pitchford say?
Well, he didn't give the most diplomatic response, which, to be fair, if somebody rolled up to me and boomed on the table and said, "This better not cost X," I would not probably give them the most diplomatic response, but Pitchford being Pitchford went a little further than I might have. The first response, probably the easiest to swallow.
Yeah, okay, so for starters, Pitchford says the price of the game is, quote, "not my call," which is true. I believe that he has an influence on the price, but technically speaking, it is true. Pricing, distribution, marketing, a lot of that execution lies with the publisher.
Yeah, the publisher is basically like an art vendor. I commission an artist to make a painting. They say it's going to take me a year and cost me $1 million. I go, well, I can probably sell it for 1.5, so okay. And then they spend a year making the painting, they give it to me, and then their part is done. The rest is on me to find a buyer, sell it, etc., etc. So yeah, a developer delivers a completed game to a publisher in exchange for the funds to develop it, to pay all their staff, maybe make a little, maybe a slice of the sales on the after. But that's it. The rest is up to the publisher.
I mean, again, 2K Games, if Pitchford emailed 2K and was like, "Hey, please don't make this game $100, they'd probably be like, "All right, bud, we'll do our best." But Lawrence is correct, and it is true. It is literally up to them and only them. And then second, what was Pitchford's second response, Lawrence?
Oh, goodness. Yeah, this is where it really falls off the rails. So Pitchford basically said that no matter what the price actually is, a real borderhead would find a way to make it happen.
Would that be a Borderland head? A Borderlandian? I don't really even know.
Border bro?
Randy Pitchford recounted a story from the depths of history, 1991. It went way back. Young Randy Pitchford, possibly with the exact same haircut, worked minimum wage at an ice cream parlor in Pismo Beach. This is, just the common man. To be able to afford an $80 copy of Starflight for Sega Genesis.
Yep. We've all got there, haven't we? It's the gaming uphill both ways in the snow, etc., etc. Here's the thing. I, too, worked a shit job at minimum wage to try to buy a PlayStation, so he's kind of got a point, sort of. We bring it up here, and it never goes over well, but the math is the math.
Yeah, even without inflation, paying $80 for Starflight on Sega Genesis in 1991, or $80 for Borderlands 4 in 2025, it's just a bad comparison. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, I mean, Borderlands 4 is like 150,000 times the video game Starflight might have been, and if you even have them at the same price. Borderlands 4, I would never pick Starflight over that. And that's not even accounting for inflation. With inflation, $80 in 91 is $187 today.
Right. And now the other argument to this is that our money doesn't go as far.
I guess, but we have way more of it.
Well, that's the counterpoint is like, yes, what we have now, back in 1991, our money went further. So spending a lot on one thing, whatever. I've seen all counterpoints to this argument. I want the audience to acknowledge that we saw it. That's all I want to say. So technically speaking, Borderlands 4 costs less than half what Starflight did in 1991.
But here's the thing, Bruce, nobody gives a shit. Hearing about how expensive games used to be or how hard they used to be to buy doesn't mean a thing to somebody who can't afford them now. No young person ever felt better hearing how much harder it used to be. That doesn't make it less hard now. So same thing, yeah. So, there was more disposable money back then. It's all the same thing. People don't give a shit. So why should they?
They don't. It wasn't just internet sickos rolling their eyes at Randy Pitchford's comments. Literally everybody did. Baldur's Gate 3 publishing director Michael Dowse called this sentiment gross. He said, "It assumes your game is more important during a cost of living crisis," which is what's happening, than, for example, making it day to day. Dowse posted on X.
So it does, but also that's what I did. I put game spending before food when I was in, college and broke. So, in a way, Pitchford's kind of right. The real weirdos will do that. That doesn't make it healthy, and it doesn't mean he's endorsing it anyway. Although he stands to gain money from it, so he probably is. Appropriately, Douse took further exception to the real fans comment too, clarifying that, quote, real fans are people who love and understand what you do, keep track, and engage with your shit regardless of how much they spend.
Sure. He even further responded to a theoretical question about Baldur's Gate 3 costing $80 if it launched in 2025 with yet another burn. He said, quote, whatever price it was, we would probably not suggest people do whatever they can to buy it, lest they not be real fans. And I would agree. Baldur's Gate 3, while I am very, very tired of all of those executives at Larian being like, oh my, I would never say this and I would never say that. Look, they made a great game. I get it. But they're using it a lot in the press. I see it a lot. And, maybe they've earned it. Maybe they've earned it, Lawrence.
They've earned it for now. Yeah. I have similar reactions whenever I see a bold, declarative, morally superior statement from any of the executive staff on Baldur's Gate 3. They've earned it for now. But boy, do things shift. CD Projekt used to be there, and they would make some of those statements, and everybody clapped until they stopped. So we'll see how it works out for them, but for now, Borderlands gets to be the smelly kid in the room.
So perhaps tired of being dunked on for out-of-date advice, Randy Pitchford also shared a 3-minute clip today of him talking through the price issue, because I'm sure he's tired of seeing these articles.
This is far more nuanced and harder to take in bad faith for the sake of a social media dunk, so take that for what you will. He begins by again disclaiming that price decisions are out of his hands, although we have to assume he could use those hands to write a sternly worded email if he really wanted to.
Of course he could. But then he relates that the economy of games making is getting extremely volatile amid price sensitivity, tariffs on physical games, and the fact that Borderlands 4's development budget is double Borderlands 3.
I mean, doubling the budget from what was already a AAA game is a huge deal. I think what will really remain is if we see the effect of that doubling, or if it's just assumed that it gets dissolved into the ether amid AAA development. But then he tried, and this is a much more diplomatic way of putting it, to articulate Gearbox's philosophy regarding video game value.
As artists, we want everybody to have it. We want to make it as easy as possible for everybody to enjoy what we're creating. So it's a weird thing, but the fundamental philosophy is we want people to buy it so we have the resources to make more, but we want everyone who buys and plays a Gearbox game to feel certain that they got the better end of the bargain. Whatever the price is, that they got the best value.
Well, maybe he put it to bed, huh? I mean, I'm not sure. Everyone's going to complain at him if the game's $80. So, Lawrence, I would love to hear, because it sounds like you are, interestingly, more on the Randy Pitchford side of things, which I never would have guessed with you, because I know you're not a big fan of Pitchford. So I would love to hear your, expounding upon the opinions in this episode.
Maybe I just feel for people that are too blunt for their own good. I think that, I have a fondness for video game executives that are willing to just put it out there, and he does often to his own detriment, I think, and sets himself up to be grandstanded on by other executives in different positions for sure. But I have said this before, I wish that game pricing were not so rigid, because I think it pushes developers to find other ways of making their money. And they would do that anyway, don't get me wrong. But I do think there are developers, like Larian with Baldur's Gate 3 is a great example, because they didn't just make a game and sell it for a flat amount of money. They had early access, they had early funding, they had a lot of ways for people to pay more than MSRP. And that's kind of the thing, is tricking people into being okay paying more than MSRP. Ironically, they're willing to do that for early access. They're willing to do that for premium bundles. They're willing to do it for microtransactions after the fact. They're willing to do it for battle passes, but they're not willing to do it at the register. So I think the immense pushback to that, and I'm not saying it's a bad pushback, I'm just analyzing trends here. The pushback on that, again, forces people to get really weird and kind of experimental and start finding different ways of altering perceptions of value versus just like making a mega game and selling it for a mega price. There are other regions aside from the US that don't have this problem, air quotes problem. There are like boutique games with a lot of investment that are intended for small markets that would sell for way more in, say, Japan or something like that. You'd have 130,000 yen games that are these boutique RPGs. So I think what we've seen for a long time, and is starting to shift a little bit with games like Expedition 33, is that the unwillingness of retail to move really either direction just precludes a certain kind of game from ever being made. And of course, I'm talking about Shenmue 4. If only we'd be okay charging $250 for a game, I could buy one copy of Shenmue 4 and everything would be fine. That's all I'm getting at. I do think that the tools, and again, Expedition is, I think, an interesting case study in this, development tools are getting efficient enough to allow game developers to make products of a certain sophistication and be able to charge less and still make money because the development costs have been reduced. That's also a slippery slope, though, because then you just go right into like, well, AI can help people make mega games for no money and still maybe maintain some artistic integrity in there, or be able to blow up what is a weird idea into a AAA style game without spending AAA budgets. I mean, again, the quip about Borderlands 4 being twice the budget from 3. I want to know where that money's going. I'm not sure playing the game I'll be able to see, but maybe I will. Maybe it'll just be twice as big. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I do think we've been the beneficiary of pretty rigid pricing structures, which is to say it's kept the cost of games really low for a really long amount of time. But again, anyone who started playing games 5 years ago is not going to have that perspective, is not going to care about that perspective, and they don't have to. So that's kind of where I'm at, is I also, was frying chicken for minimum wage to buy Chrono Cross. And it sucked. It took me like 2 months. But nowadays, you can play a game that has more content than that for free. You can play Genshin or whatever. And yeah, those themselves are over monetized, but it's there, and you can play it on a phone that costs about as much as a PlayStation used to. So there's options in the market. It's competitive, and it's easier, and the games you get now are easier and cheaper to get. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore, but I see his point. If you want to make prestige games, there's some business realities to it that you can't avoid.
All excellent points. I literally don't disagree with anything you've said. However, Lawrence, this time of year, I get a bunch of bills, and all those bills went up. Every single one of them. Insurance bills. We're talking random payments, subscriber. All of them went up. So when Randy Pitchford comes out and says, a true fan will pay $80, and $80 is what shut the fuck up. I don't care. How about this? I don't buy your game. That's kind of what it boils down to. For me, I don't need to play Borderlands 4. He's probably right. A true fan will probably go and spend the $80, but complain about it online. He's probably right about that. That said, people are on the fence about Borderlands 4 may or may not spend the $80, because $80 is a lot of money. And like I said, all of your points are so valid, and they all make so much sense. But we are getting over monetized by literally everything right now. Everything. There is a cost of living crisis, and it's something that is like this weird push and pull between, oh man, I don't have enough money for groceries, and also I Uber Eats everything. So like this, it's so weird. It's this weird time that we're in, and so when somebody who's a multimillionaire comes out and says, spend the $80, you're a true fan. No. Like, I'm tired of multimillionaires telling me this stuff. So I'm not gonna do it. I mean, like, it's like, and I'm starting to draw lines now. Like instead of being like, I'll pay the extra $10 or I'll pay the extra $100 on my car insurance or what the fuck. Now I'm starting to call and being like, I don't want this insurance anymore. Like now I'm actually going and doing the research, which I shouldn't. They don't want to lose me as business, but they're going to. So we're in this really kind of a real bummer time. And so I understand from the internet's perspective, from Reddit's perspective, from Twitter's perspective, you don't want to hear this from somebody who has no trouble paying the $80 to buy their own game.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. The last thing I would want to hear is, standing over a chicken fryer in 105-degree Texas heat is that I just need to suck it up and be a true fan, Final Fantasy fan, to buy Final Fantasy 9 or whatever. Yeah, it's not great. And you're right, Bruce. All the stuff I said is separated from the reality that we are in now and headed towards this fall, which is that rising costs of everything are going to make games harder to buy. going to drive a lot of interest and business towards the cheaper games that have a lot of vibrance. And then that does mean that I think we're a part of this shift away from these brands that have almost gotten too big to survive, or this expectation that every game needs to be like exponentially larger than the last. Yeah, it's rough out there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it goes. The thing is, for all the clamor, we have yet to find the fall off, right? Where everybody just walks away from a game because of price. It's mostly just because it fails to capture people's interests. The sentiment is loud and clear on the internet. So I think we're on the precipice of, like you said, Bruce, a lot of people just being like, I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, who knows what will happen? Borderlands 4 could be the first one where everybody's like, never mind, I'm not going to buy it. And since you've heard Lawrence and I talk so much about all of these different points, we truly, Inside Games is on your side. We promise you, we are on your side. Lawrence is going to tell you how we are on your side.
With free games! That's right. It's the every other week kind of catch-up free game roundup. Because Inside Games is on your side. Get that gaming for free. If you're worried about Borderlands 4, why not try another action RPG? Dead Island 2 is available now on Epic Games, with Happy Game as well, though this is the last day for that. It's going to rotate on Thursday. So make sure to grab that tonight if you can. Amazon Prime also has Saints Row: Gat Out of Hell, Wolfenstein 2, Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga, and Minecraft Legends, all for free.
Yeah, those are great. Dead Island 2, by the way, it's super fun. You should play that game. It's free. Xbox just announced that Metaphor ReFantazio is coming to Game Pass, which is fantastic. It's like a 100-hour game, and it's a great video game. So totally worth your time on Game Pass. And in addition to a Retro Classics bundle that hit the service today as well, including over 50 classic Activision games, which I don't care about at all. But I bet Lawrence has played a bunch.
Actually, that's a little too old for my taste, man. Going back to the Atari era.
Oh.
I need a little glitz and glamour, you know. Silent film is a little too much for me. Actually, I take that back. I watched some Buster Keaton movies that were fucking awesome. And Harold Lloyd, oh my God. What was it? Safety First. Everyone go watch Safety First. Watch John Wick and then watch Safety First.
We'd like to shout out two special Inside Games patrons. They support our Inside Games Patreon every single month. And they always follow Randy Pitchford's advice. Boy, that could be really dangerous. Spirit Bear and Scotty Ryan. Following that advice actually may have made them homeless, but they still find a way to be true fans and support us every month. True fans. And for those actual Spirit Bear and Scotty Ryan, we actually raised the price to $80 now a month. So now in order to be true fans, they must pay that. But they will because they're true fans.
Oh, we just need to name the Patreon tier that. And then that's going to lock everyone in. They won't be able to get out. Also, it's called Safety Last. That's the name of the movie. Damn it.